trumpet. In case he hasn't got a trumpet on his sound effects CD, here's my trumpet. Da, 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 da. The Wiggly video has been launched.
Excellent.
And Ricardo, you and I have already got a review.
Really? Should I ask?
We have 2 reviews.
Right.
The first one said, nice vid.
Excellent.
And the second one says, saw your new cow video. So it's not about cows, it's about a can of worms.
All right.
Very good and very funny.
Excellent. That's good. That's the object of the exercise. Oh, they are. That's good. That's good.
Laurel and Hardy go gardening.
Shut up, Philip. Onwards we go.
You'll pay for that.
On this week's podcast, we have the normal 3, the Blakemere 3,
Right.
which is myself, Heather,
Farmer Phil.
And Richard.
and we are joined today by 2 special guests and 1 dog. We have Noah, the cat, and sitting on Ricardo's right is our dear podcast buddy, Mark Eccleston.
Hello there, how you doing?
All right, have you been on the Wiggly sofa before?
Once or twice, yes.
There we are. And he's tickling Jam, the dog.
Not Ricardo, yeah.
Good. Let's keep with that thing. But so you're comparing Mark to Noah now, as in terms of special guests.
Don't be ridiculous. Noah's very special. On today's show, we have the Pesticides Directive update. We have some advice from Ricardo about gardening. That'll be original. Farmer Phil reports on his bull and his frogs. So he's reporting on bullfrogs. Oh, that's
Very good, very good. Farmer Phil reporting on bull. No change there then.
I'm good at it because I practice.
You certainly do. You've got down
like you, Rick.
I'm saying nothing.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty. We need to know about these pesticides. What's happened in the European Union? What has Neil Parish, the MEP, the farmer from Devon, achieved?
Well, what he actually achieved was that he got a majority of British MEPs to vote against the pesticides legislation, but despite that, Europe voted them down and with some amendments have passed it. Some of the amendments are quite significant and will alleviate some of our worries, but essentially it will reduce the number of pesticides available to farmers, and in some cases that'll be a good thing, and in other cases it won't.
So you've lost Farmer Phil and Ricardo's won. Well done, Ricardo.
I don't think I'd put it as strongly as that. I think it's a compromise.
Well, it's all moving in the right direction, isn't it? That's the best news, I reckon.
Well, in conjunction with that, not as a result of it, we were talking last time about slug bait, which is not very nice stuff.
No.
And there have been 1 or 2 issues this autumn with the particularly wet weather, with people being concerned that too much slug bait is getting into surface water, and that we've got to do something about that. To that end, they're going to put maximum dose rates and the maximum total annual slug bait applications in order to mitigate that risk of getting the active ingredients of slug bait into groundwater. And I think that's a good thing, because there are people and places in the country where they've had to, or they think they've had to, just shovel slug bait onto the land, but really you've got to the point where frankly the slugs have won that field, and that there must come a point where it's either uneconomic or environmentally damaging, or probably both.
Right.
So I've got no complaints about that. I think that's probably good, and if it means that we can use that product safely.
So is there going to be any policing, do you think? I mean, is it
It'll be policed in the same way that all our other pesticide applications are policed.
Right.
We have to record every pesticide that we put on accurately,
Right.
and if you get inspected, they will compare your application records with the invoices for the pesticides you bought, and if they don't agree, then you will be asked to explain why they don't agree.
Have you ever been inspected?
No.
Right. How many years have you been doing it?
They do reckon to inspect a percentage every year as part of cross-compliance.
Do you know anybody that's been inspected?
Yeah, I do. So a number of people have been inspected. And
I know he's fearful of it because his spray record book is very important to him.
Yeah.
Because I did try and tear it up once in a fit of temper.
a sort of wifely, what can I target
Yes.
the husband most thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
and it went right to the quick.
Yeah.
Now, I
Oh, well
met a
done,
farmer on my travels this week who I sat by at dinner, and I was talking about, farmers and the environment and custodians of the countryside, and he said to me that he loved slug bait and that the way that he used it was as a preventative measure, that he put it all over the fields at the time when the slugs would then take it and not breed from it. So he felt that slug bait was an asset to his business, and that by using it in quantity or over a wide area, he had diminished his slug problem.
there are several comments to be made in amongst that. Anybody who can use slug bait, I like spreading slug bait, let's chuck it all over the place, has got more money than sense because it's expensive.
He was on an estate.
And so
He was posh.
that would be
Posher than Farmer Phil.
No.
That would be my first comment. The life cycle of a slug is relatively predictable, and so that if you've got a serious problem, applications of slug bait in conjunction with the weather and taking due account of the fact that the life cycle of a slug is approximately 3 weeks, you can significantly reduce how much slug bait you use. And then, as we've mentioned before, firming the seed beds correctly, getting a good seed bed will restrict the movements of the slugs, which will help that way. But I am firmly of the opinion that anybody who says, oh well, we just spread the whole farm X, Y and Z times because we like it, are on a hiding to nowhere, and they give the rest of us a bad name. Because
So what do you actually do then?
what I actually do is I try to only use it when I see that I've got a problem. I try and monitor the
And he
situation.
said that was exactly the wrong way of doing it.
Well, it depends how good you are at detecting your problem or even preempting your problem. The other thing I'll do is that if I think I'm going to have a problem in a particular... So if you've got an area of the field where the seed bed is not of high enough quality, I might just do that patch on the basis that I know that there will be a problem and I can preempt it.
What do you mean as high enough quality? How would you know if the slugs
Well,
are
if
going
it's
to
not
get it?
firm enough or it's too cobbly, a piece of heavier ground where it's laid wet or where there have been some wheel marks, anything like that, if the soil structure is too open, the slugs can move around in it and they will eat the plants that way.
He also said to me that he doesn't plough.
Again,
So he's got it compacted, hasn't he?
that is true, that depending on how you do your cultivations will depend, and what your soil's like and what the weather's like, will depend on how slug friendly or not the resulting seedbed is. Min-till is quite nice for slugs. They like it because you have this layer of the previous crop trash in the surface,
food.
which is just slug heaven. And particularly oilseed rape growers this autumn have had an absolute nightmare because oilseed rape is just divine for the slug.
Rich, in the garden then,
Yeah.
are we supposed to go and stamp our seedbed down more?
Definitely not. No, it's not a good idea. It seems that it's out of balance, but no, compaction in the garden is an altogether bad thing, really.
Compaction and firmness are two different things. Compaction and firmness of a seedbed are completely different things.
I mean, there are exceptions, of course. I mean, if you want to grow sprouts, for instance, then if you want to grow a good hard sprout, then you need compact soil. But the long-term health of the soil suffers from compaction. And equally, if you're compacting the soil and then you've got to dig it again, so you're disturbing it, then that ultimately leads to problems. Soil is best left undisturbed, to be perfectly honest, as much as physically possible.
Let the worms do the work.
Yeah, I mean, lots of gardeners will say, you should definitely, lift your soil in the winter time when it's really cold, and after we've had these really hard frosts, the frost can get in the soil and break it up a bit, and also you'll be killing slug eggs by exposing them to those kind of elements. But on balance, it's much better to leave them undisturbed. Really.
The important thing, and this goes for gardening as well as farming, is that there are various ways of creating a soil profile, and by digging it or ploughing it, you disturb that soil profile and you have to reinstate it. But essentially it should have small particles at the top and larger particles underneath. And the way that happens is that the frost will break down the surface and make a tilth, small particles, and the dry in the summer will crack out underneath to make the bigger particles. And that's how the profile works. And if you disturb it, you should aim to recreate that And that is why in a farm situation, if you disturb it, you then firm it, not compact it, firm it and work the surface. And that creates the big particles underneath and the small ones at the top. In the garden, you do exactly the same. So if you decide that you have to dig it, you then firm it back down with the rake or whatever, and you end up with your tilth on the top. You don't try and produce 6 inches of tilth. It's only a little bit on the top.
So is Terry pleased? Have you seen Terry, Walton?
I've spoken to him several times this week.
Is he pleased to have had a frost?
On the 24th. Yes, he loves his frosts. Frosts are important, you know, they do serve some significant purposes, really. You know, they do kill off some creatures that you don't want hanging around throughout the winter. And of course, if you've got green manures, then they check those green manures so they're not getting too big, so that when you dig them in come February time, there's not too much growth to die off before you can make the most of the fertility that they're predisposing. I mean, that is one of the downsides of green manures, of course, is that you do have to dig them in. But on balance, you know, certainly for Terry's, because he's got his allotments on a slope, so it tends to leach a lot of nutrient. As my garden is on the side of a hillside, so it does leach a lot of nutrient. So if you can trap that nutrient or stop it leaching away throughout the winter, so as it's available for plant growth in the spring, then that's probably better to mix up some green manures with mulching. You know.
In years gone by, they used to cart clay onto light soils that used to leach nutrients like that, and they would cart clay and spread it by hand to try and make the soil hold on to its nutrients better.
Right.
Now, lots of Wiggly Facebook groupies want to know where Terry's and your podcast has gone.
Ah, right.
Now,
okay.
Where is it, Rich?
It's on the Gardener's Click website. So it's
the Gardener's Click. So Google...
gardenersclick.co.uk.
Google Gardener's Click, you'll find it.
It's on there at the moment, but good old Simon Sherlock has been on the case, and he's trying to, well, he has, I'm pretty sure, found a means of being able to link the podcast back with iTunes from whence it came. Because, of course, we had a few problems, and ultimately it might have meant me having to go through the laborious, sweaty, and I can even feel myself feeling quite sicky thinking about the process that would involve such techie stuff. So consequently, Simon's taken the initiative. Off he's gone and communicated his efforts with Terry, I think, and the people at the Gardener's Click website. So it should, all things being equal, be back up on iTunes again by the end of this month.
Fantastic. I would add that I couldn't bear to think of you doing that either. So if it doesn't work out, Michael's got a genius way.
We've had some fantastic so that's good. So I feel a whole sense of well-being from what's happened over this last week.
I just couldn't see it working. Richard Pike has got back in touch.
Right.
You know, we wondered if it was really Ricardo Fishburne, as his name was Pike, but he's back and he says, "Ha ha! My frivolous comment after a couple of sherbets about less Farmer Phil and more Rachel had the required effect. I got a podcast mention. Didn't mean for it to force a vote of confidence in poor Farmer Phil. Suppose I should redeem myself by getting my alter ego allotment man to write an iTunes review and perhaps placing an order." So I immediately went to the Wiggly orders and he's placed one.
What's it for?
I think that's part of the Data Protection Act. But he spent a tenner and it's been dispatched on Tuesday for bird watching weekend. Any clues?
I think I've got an idea.
Do you think that marketing by shame is an ethical means?
Shame of dividing something. Seems perfectly reasonable.
Welcome, Richard, to the Wiggly fold. You're now a proper one because you've purchased.
Well done. Richard Pike, great name.
Montycast, a weekly fact on wiggliness.
Montycast, a weekly fact on wiggliness. My cousin Edith stars in the Wiggly Wigglers Florist video. Another Montycast, a weekly fact on wiggliness. Next week.
Ricardo, we need a snippet of gardening advice for February.
Right, yeah, it's still not that much to do. I mean, it's definitely a time to mulch. If you haven't already covered your naked soil, then get some manure on it, cover it over, protect it, and let all that lovely nutrients seep into the ground. And when I was rattling to Terry the other day, I said, I've forgotten to get my garlic in. And he said, it's not too late. You want to? You could get it in now. You just put it in the ground, or you could start it off in. I'm doing
Pakistan.
This. Do you think?
Is he Welsh Pakistan?
He'll kill me.
I don't think Ricardo's impressions are a long-term.
Now, don't say that word that we're not allowed to say.
The more I did it, I say you're right. No, definitely not.
No, because something terrible happens to you if you say that.
What is that? Taffy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, something like that.
Right.
But anyway, he
Tidy.
You've broken my flow now. I thought the more I did it, the better I'm going to become at the whole
You have to
thing.
say to him, what's the curve?
Anyway, he said, what's a curve?
What's occurring?
He said, it's not. He said, try. You can get your garlic, and of course, and he said, you've got a cold frame. I said, yeah, I've got a cold frame because I made one, and last year.
Do you always repeat everything you say?
Yeah. And he said, put your garlic cloves individually in pots and put them in the cold frame to give them a bit of a head start now, get them going, and then put them out into the garden.
Oh, I've got a really thick question now.
Okay.
So just the little triangle bit?
Yeah.
We'll actually do it, will
Yeah,
it?
if you stick it in the ground, make sure it's the right way up. Just make sure the top of it's just slightly covered. Onions and garlic, you could almost, well certainly onions, you could place them on the soil, on the very top of the soil, and they'll take a root and expand from there, but you tend to need to cover them a little bit because otherwise the birds pluck them out of the ground.
Hang on, Rich, technical details here, I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
I'm putting one clove, which is about, 25 mil tall,
Yep.
into what size pot?
Into a pot that's probably about 75 mil diameter.
Gosh, you do know your meals.
Well,
you should know how to
roughly, give or take a couple of millimetres, but that'll be absolutely fine.
Now,
so it's
am I
only
going
just
to
to start
water
it
it?
off. Just to
Am
start
I,
off.
what am I
just moisten it before it goes in the cold frame. The chances are that it's not going to be very hot now at this time of year anyway, so the cold frame isn't going to get hot, but it's going to be warm enough just to stimulate some rooting by the clove. Give it a little bit of a start, and then you can plant it out then.
And how long is it going to take before I get some proper garlic to harvest?
You're going to be harvesting your garlic in around about August time.
Oh, that's not so bad.
August, September time. No, it's really fast growing. And put it in really rich ground. It loves lots of nutrient. So really well improved soil, lots of muck. I mean, what I usually do is when I mulch the ground, I scratch the mulch, which is fairly well deteriorated, into the top of the soil. Don't dig it in, and then just quite literally dib a little hole and pop the clove in.
And what pests get after your garlic, love?
Well, not too many. I mean, as you can imagine, garlic isn't particularly appealing to many pests at all. But you do get some slug predation on the leaves. But to be perfectly honest, nothing really pests garlic. You can get a little bit of rust on garlic, which isn't really a problem. It's something that's been particularly prevalent over the last couple of years because it's been so wet. But it doesn't affect the flavour really. It may affect the growth, but not to any great extent. But no, garlic's pretty robust. It's a good, easy vegetable to grow.
Planted any garlic, Mark?
I have, yeah. I did mine before the winter. They've all started sprouting. I had a bit of a problem with slugs a couple of weeks ago before the frost. We sorted them out, I chopped them in half. And
you see, I remember when we went, because we're going to talk about this in a bit, I went over to yours back in the summer, and your fantastic green space that you've made, and you've grown a load of, was it sprouts or purple sprouting or something like that?
Yeah.
And they were littered with caterpillars, and you said you weren't going to grow. And actually exactly the same for me next year. I'm not going to grow sprouts, because I've been kidding myself for years that I do like them, but they are fairly disgusting. So I'm not going to grow sprouts. And also what bothers me is the fact that I need to control the caterpillars. And you said, I'm not going to grow brassicas next year, Rich, because I'm killing these caterpillars, and this space is for wildlife, so it goes against the grain a bit.
It just seemed a bit odd that you spend all this time creating habitat, and then because they're eating your leaves off your sprouts, you start squashing them.
So how does a highly principled man like yourself manage to accept the fact that he needs to kill his slugs?
Quite easy, really. Yeah. I've got a special pair of secateurs that I go around and chop them all in half, and they're all covered in slug ooze and guts and things.
Slug ooze?
Yeah. And it makes it easy because when you leave them, chop them in half, the other slugs come and eat them.
Right.
So we end up with a great big mound.
Oh, I see.
Of slug ooze.
Oh, excellent. So it's a balance. So really, by taking the lives of a certain fraction of the population, you're providing opportunities for their chums.
Yeah, that's why I like to think about it. Yeah,
that seems pretty sensible to me. Excellent. And your green space has been going great guns, hasn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. What we've done in the year, it's been quite remarkable, really. So you started off with the orchard and the cottage garden, then we got the rose garden.
So describe the space for folks, because this is something that we've reported on over the course, certainly over the last 12, 18 months. And there's a whole series of habitats in something that's been brought about by the efforts of a relatively small community of people.
Yeah, well, the green space itself is roughly between 2 and 3 acres, and round the edging is all trees that were planted when the housing development was put in there. So the trees are about 8 years old now,
Right.
Which is great because it provides really good cover between the green space and the road that runs alongside it.
And hopefully it'll sort of baffle the noise a little bit as well.
You can notice a difference in the summer when it's full of leaves. You can't see the cars, obviously, and you can't hear us so much neither.
Okay.
And it's a little haven, isn't it, from a big road, you know?
Yeah.
So within the space, what other habitats have you got?
So we've got the orchard. In the orchard is like 15 fruit trees. Underneath them is like a whole load of wildflowers. In another area we've got a rockery which is full of alpines. Then we've got a cottage garden area. There's a little stream that runs into... It's on the edge of the green space, so we've dammed it, and we're going to... That's another habitat that's... We've got like bulrushes and various other bits and bobs in there.
Yeah.
We're creating a meadow this year, which is like the project for this year. And basically it's just an area of land that the grass wasn't cut last year.
Yeah.
It was all trimmed, we raked it all off. There's a dry stone wall in front of that now. The back of it's got all the sods that we've taken off of veggie patches, which we'll come back to. We created some veggie patches so that's got all sods on, which are going to be sown with seed. So
excellent.
Is that?
So it's a mix. I mean, it's a great. It sounds really complicated and high maintenance. I mean, is it high maintenance?
No. I mean, I pot around there all the time, but I mean, we have like work groups once a month, spend a couple of hours just doing bits and bobs. And obviously this year it'll be even less because all the hard stuff's been done. It'll just be a case of maintaining it, planting some stuff and enjoying it this time.
Letting it flourish, yeah.
Wonderful. Tell them about your flashing nose. That's the bit I like.
On Christmas Eve, we had this event. It was called Carols on the Green. It was something that we organised.
Was that like Vorderman?
It would have been nice if she was there, but it was more la-la sort of carols.
You wouldn't be able to afford her. She's expensive.
She's got nothing to do with it, has she?
Yeah. Thatcher.
She's lost a job, so she might come down.
Carol Thatcher, well, she's probably quite... she's on the wine show, so I don't imagine she costs much at all.
It was more of the la-la sort of carols.
With you.
All right. We thought we'd have some... There's not much happening on Christmas Eve, and the spirit of Christmas is gone a little bit, so we thought we'd try to encourage it back. So we had this event, carols, people made mince pies, mulled wine, sausage rolls. It was a whole community thing. The actual cost for us to do it was around about £30, which was for the glow sticks that we used. These are magic glow sticks, I must add.
Of course.
Santa attracting glow sticks that when you dangle it around your neck, it was like a GPS to Santa, so we knew where you were. Like. So once we had the carols, had a break, people had some food, then we finished off with some more carols, and then we went on the Santa hunt.
Had you been on the website first? Because Monty and I followed him, and he was in... Where was he when we followed him? I think he was in Afghanistan.
At the time, we went on that NORAD thing for NASA, and he was in Pakistan at the time, so we were a bit concerned whether he would get to us or not, because it's a bit of a dodgy area, isn't it? But he managed to get through. Once we finished all the carols, we got all the kids together, explained them what we were going to do. We were going to see if we could see him, so they all had torches. And we went off, we created these paths through the woods, and all these glow sticks were all dangling from the trees, so it was really, really atmospheric, and we had all these candles, because it was a nice still night, we could have all these tea lights everywhere. And I had a big lantern and a flashing red nose, which was, because I was leading the way,
of course.
I thought it was a thing to have, a flashing red nose.
Excellent.
So
you've been better with a flashing red arse. People are following you.
Well, that's something you can think about for next year, isn't it? So off we went, and then we went into the woods, and we stopped, and the kids were looking down in the sky for him, and then you could hear these like sleigh bells in the distance, which is really amazing, really, considering where he was.
Yeah. That's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how this like sound travels, isn't it? But,
it certainly is.
So that got the kids going, because we could hear him, like, you know, he's getting fainter, because he must have gone
filling up.
I'm just completely hooked. It's such a great story.
And then we came into this meadowy bit, and there was all like candles on the dry stone wall thing, and it's sort of, the kids go, oh wow, sort of thing, and then another bit more of a path, and we built what was a reindeer hut.
Right.
But it's actually a den as well. It's amazing how many different things this can be. And it was all made out of all the scrap wood that we could find, so again, it didn't cost us out. So when we got to the reindeer hut, we had this like basket, like a Moses basket full of reindeer food.
You've got a packet there.
Which is what we got here, and it's special food, but the bags are made out of Hessian bags, which were cut up sandbags.
Right.
With a bit of red ribbon on the top, and there's a special poem that comes with
Is this one you made earlier?
This is...
Yeah.
I didn't, my missus did.
Oh, right, okay.
Let's have the poem.
Sprinkle on the lawn at night, the moon will make it sparkle bright. As Santa's reindeers fly in Rome, this will guide them to your home.
Wow.
See, so not only have they got the glow sticks,
Excellent.
they've got reindeer food.
A sense of direction
So-
as well from this.
And then
sprinkler.
let's look inside.
The reindeer food is
Look at that.
amazing stuff.
Yeah.
It does have the look of bird food, but it's...
It has the look of Wiggly Seed Extra.
it does, but that is just purely coincidental, that is.
Yeah.
Would you add or leave it?
And it's got...
But look inside.
And it's got glitter in it, which is obviously relates
Magic.
to the poem.
Yeah.
But we did say to the children, if the reindeers didn't eat it, because obviously eating all the carrots and everything,
Yeah.
the birds might have it, you see, as well.
Right.
And all be left is be the glitter, and that's all you know. So
So the glitter is the magic bit,
yeah,
really.
it is. It's amazing the properties it does have.
Yeah. And Santa can see that sparkling.
In the moonlight, even if it's cloudy.
So they
it's
go
still
home
spark-
and they sort of sprinkle it on their lawn or their drive.
That's it.
Isn't
So
it?
it attracts them there.
Richard's had it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
That's great. It's great.
And it worked really well.
Yeah.
And
kids-
next year, Wiggly Wigglers.
You know it's true.
I mean, this just fits in with everything, doesn't it? You've got the Hessian, which you say comes off the peanuts. The reindeer food, which looks remarkably like Wiggly Seed Extra.
It does.
Is obviously plenty of it.
Fantastic. I think next year, instead of divine chocolate, that all our customers should have some magic reindeer food.
A free pouch of
Yeah.
magic reindeer
Don't you
food.
think that would be
seems
lovely?
Perfectly sensible to me.
Spread a bit of magic with Wiggly Wogglers. And due to all that gooiness, we haven't really got time to hear about Phil's bullfrogs,
Oh, we're not.
but we will. Quick, Phil, what happened to the bullpen?
Well, Nabob, who is our senior bull, was found in the morning with the wall of his pen dividing him from the cows next door. He'd pushed it flat on the floor, a breeze block wall, and he was standing looking at it as if to say, "Look what I've done. I haven't walked out of my pen, honest, but I pushed the wall over and I could walk out." So now we've got to get Pip to come. Pip and Ada, you've got to come and rebuild Nabob's wall. And in terms of my frogs...
No.
Oh.
Now, I once went to Centre Park. Sorry, but it's better. Now, I once went to Centre Park, and I went up a huge, huge set of steps. And as I reached the top, there was more and more trepidation. And then I launched myself down this whizzy tube of water. Woo, 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 woo. And I came out of the other end like a bullet, went straight underwater, and it was the ride of my life.
That doesn't say much for you, does it?
Thank you, Richard. And so I want to know, why have the frogs here been doing the same thing? Not at Centre Parks, but from the pond to the water trough.
Well, basically, we have a private water supply which is fed from a reservoir up in the wood, and in said reservoir we have a thriving colony of frogs. But in the last few weeks, presumably because they're rather bored in their pond and they're looking for a thrill, they've decided
I think they're suicidal.
that they want
Credit crunch.
come down the pipe to all our water troughs. But the trouble is, what they forgot is, because they're quite robust frogs, you know, well-covered ones, that they don't fit through various parts of the water system. So that has been potentially disastrous for the frogs and a pain in the proverbials for us, because we have to then try and get them out of the water system, which we do by blowing them out with a compressor from the other end. But
Wildlife gardening with Wiggly Wigglers.
there is a positive note to all this, because I decided, therefore, to clean the system out of frogs. Because it's a big pipe coming down off the hill, I thought what I'll do is I'll flush all the frogs and whatever else out of that, and they can go down the ditch into the pond down here, you see. Not thinking particularly that they would survive much of this. So anyway, I flushed it all out and all this rubbish and everything out across the yard, and the following morning I found a live frog which had survived this ride. But not only had he survived that ride, he'd survived being run over by Kevin on the JCB, and he'd actually gone between the treads of the tyres. And I thought, having survived all that, I would pick him up and put him in the ditch, because I thought he was suffering a little bit of post-traumatic stress syndrome, I think.
You weren't waving your compressor around at the time, were you?
No. He was intact and
But
still
how
with it.
does this frog mean that the cows don't get any water?
Well, because he won't fit through the junctions in the small water pipes and the ball valve in the water trough.
So I want to
can you
know
put a
from
filter on
Ricardo.
your,
Yeah, this is what we want to know. First of all, what are the frogs doing in the pot? Are they down in the silt at the moment?
So yeah, that's exactly it, have they? They've emerged from the silt and they're looking to embark on their springtime nuptials at any moment now, really, you know. And certainly at the beginning of February, frogs will be spawning. It's slightly unfortunate that they've had to make a break for it through Phil's drinking water system, but I'm presuming that Phil will have taken the initiative, and as the responsible farmer that he's always telling us he is, and we'll put a filter on the top of the inlet to stop such an awful occurrence next year.
I think that's probably true. I actually think the problem is that the silt level has risen up to the level of the pipe.
Right.
And that's what the problem is, and so that this...
Because you never had it before.
No. It's
There's just been a frog moment.
So what we need to do is...
Although actually that's not strictly true. I have heard you mention of said blockage from fat froggy on previous occasions, but not in abundance.
It is pretty uncommon. It wouldn't happen very often.
Right.
But I think what the problem is that the level of silt in the pond has risen up to the outlet pipe. Because the outlet pipe's about a foot off the bottom of the pond. Because it's a lined pond. The prisoners of war made it, and it's lined with clay and it's hard. So that when the silt gets up to the pipe, then the froggy's just waking up. I don't know why, but they look at this pipe and think, well, we're just going to have to go down there.
It's because of me and the Centre Parks experience.
You must have been talking about it sometime when you're up there, and they thought, oh, give that a go.
I'll give that a go.
I expect that's what it is. But we obviously grow some particularly portly frogs.
We'll leave that there. Mark, thank you for coming to the Wiggly Sofa and joining the cat. You did speak more.
It's good to see you.
I've still got to tickle Richard yet.
It's nice to have one. No, I don't know. we can avoid that. We don't need to go to those lengths. If Roz Savage was here, then that would be a different story altogether.
Okay.
What? If Roz Savage was here, you'd let Mark tickle it?
That's something to look forward to, isn't
Roz, come home. Come and see us. Richard wants Mark to tickle him or something. And so it's goodbye from us on the Wiggly Sofa for one more week, and we will speak with you next week, just before Valentine's Day. So if you need to give that sweetheart anything special, give us a call. Check out Wiggly Wigglers. Bye for now.
And it's bye from me.
Bye.
Bye from me.